Team, welcome to Built Resilient for another week. My name is Bart Walsh. I'm a keynote speaker. I am a fitness expert, and I'm here to level up your mental, emotional, and physical resilience one tough question at a time. And team, if you want to contribute to the show like the one today is a Q&A show. You can contribute by writing into hello@bartwalsh.com.au. Do me a favor, be specific with your questions. Tell me about you. Tell me about your context, particularly if it's about health or nutrition or mental health. And we will bash out these questions on a show in the future. Now, team, today is a bit of a different format. If you do enjoy this format, let me know. I'd love to bring more episodes like this to you. They're often my favorite to do in comparison to the scripted ones that I do usually. So if you do like it, let me know through social media. Let me know through my email, hello@bartwalsh.com.au. Just plugging that hard today. And let me know what you want. Let me know if this format is right for you. Team, we have 4 questions to get through today. And to make me feel like I'm not completely alone in this podcast studio, I'm going to involve 4 AI voices to read these questions for me. Let's dive into question number 1.
I do a lot of presentations at work and find that I either lose interest in my own content, most of the time, or feel like my brain fades about halfway through. Can you give some tips on what to do before a presentation to enhance performance?
This is awesome because communication, particularly when it comes to presentations, is a slow dying art, particularly in the world of AI. I'm at a point now where whenever I receive an email, whenever I receive a text message or even a LinkedIn message that's clearly been filtered through AI, my heart breaks just a little bit because they're not your words. They are in essence, but they're also not. So firstly, if you are personal messaging anyone, I encourage you not to use AI. But secondly, leverage AI in different ways. And when it comes to presenting, it's very easy to lean on AI once again, but I want you to shy away from that. When it comes to presentation and enhancing your performance, a lot of the confidence you have on the day, a lot of the feeling of assurance you have on the day happens weeks beforehand. If you don't have weeks beforehand to prepare your presentation, that's okay. We'll talk about that a bit in a second. But whenever I go on stage, whenever I deliver a presentation at work, the reason why they're so engaging is because I know my stuff. I know what's on the slides. I don't need to read them. I know the impact and the message that I want to convey to the audience. And then I just simply have to do it. It's a level of confidence that you need to achieve before you do that presentation. So if you're sort of doing presentations on the fly, yep, you might be doing it. You might be rambling quite a bit, but they could be a lot more powerful if we just give a little bit more preparation into it. And in fact, if I take myself back to acting days, you should feel nervous. You should feel a sense of anticipation before the presentation. And I've learned that if I don't have that before a keynote speech or before a presentation at work, I know there's something wrong. And so don't shy away from that. If you do feel that nervousness, understand that it's a good thing, that it actually means something to you. Acutely, here is how I prepare myself for a presentation or a keynote speech. I make sure I get a good night's sleep the night before. If I'm doing a presentation and I'm traveling, I'm not a bougie person. I'm not. I'll travel economy for the rest of my life. I don't mind. I like being a common person. But when it comes to a presentation, a big one, I'll fork out the extra however many dollars to get a good hotel with good pillows and a good bed to make sure I get a good night's sleep the night before. This is just to make sure my thoughts are clear and that I can stay present. I don't want to be thinking about what material I have to present. I want to be there and connected with the audience. So it starts with a good night's sleep the night before. I go as far as if I am traveling. I take my own pillow. I take my own eye mask. I take my own earplugs just to give myself a sense of familiarity with what I normally do when I sleep at home. Very rarely will I go through my content just before the meeting or just before the presentation or the day of the presentation. I know it. I've done my preparation, and that helps keep me a bit more present and a bit more connected with the people I'm trying to connect to. More acutely, here's what I do to enhance my performance. About an hour before the presentation, let's say the presentation is at, 10 a.m. and it's in a boardroom at work, for instance. About 9 a.m., an hour before, I'll have my 3 C's. This is weird. Stay with me. It's caffeine, creatine, and carbohydrates. So what I don't want to happen, and this might be happening with you when you lose energy or lose your train of thought halfway through, the last thing I want is to bonk. For those runners out there, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's when you run out of energy and all of a sudden you're sort of trying to pick up the scraps of energy that are left on that run to finish it. I don't want to get halfway through my presentation and lose the energy, literally lose the carbohydrates in my system. And so the carbohydrates will give me sustained energy throughout the presentation. The caffeine will help heighten my nervous system and make me feel less tired. Coffee drinkers out there, unite. And creatine's a really interesting one. Creatine, a lot of people think is only for people with a lot of muscles, but yes, it can help you build muscle by helping push water and nutrients into the cells. But because the energy that creatine helps replenish is all over the body, it can help you cognitively as well. So I find about an hour after taking creatine, I can all of a sudden think a bit clearer and be a bit more present. So my 3 C's about an hour before: carbohydrates, creatine, and caffeine. And then let's just say the meeting is at 10 a.m. I'll make sure I always arrive early just to understand the presentation space, making sure I know where my eye lines are, how I can connect with the audience better, making sure I'm not standing in front of the projector or the screen, what have you. And then I'll try and move. And so remember that if you want to try and calm your mind, sometimes expressing that nervousness through movement can help. I don't do a workout. I just try and get out into the sun, and I try and go for a little walk just to get the blood flowing, particularly to the brain through movement. And then right before the presentation, if I'm really nervous, I'll do a bit of breath work. I'll just do some big, deep breaths with focusing on the exhale to try and get the excess carbon dioxide that might be in the system out, just to calm the nervous system. And then it's showtime. And so to go back to your question, I feel like my brain fades about halfway through. Think about your nutrition. I think that might be the answer to what we're trying to do here. And also think about the timing of caffeine if you are a coffee drinker, and potential ergogenic effect from creatine if you want to. But I think it might be a fuel thing. And hey, if you're getting bored with your content halfway through, guess who else is getting bored with your content? The audience. So I need you to try and find a way to flip that, either make it more engaging or present it in a bit of a different way. But I really love this conversation because the more keynote speaking I do, the more I understand it's like a sport, it's like an event. And if you look after the thing that you're presenting with, your body, it all of a sudden makes that presentation 10 times easier. And for those out there that do a bit of presenting in their place of work or perhaps even on a stage as well, I think looking into sports nutrition might be a really good. You don't have to carb up beforehand and have protein shakes afterwards, but understanding how your body uses fuel really helps, particularly when you're trying to present something that might be complex for your audience to understand. All right, let's do question number 2.
How can I work out to become more mentally resilient? Is there a specific program I should be following or an event I should be doing? Thanks.
What I wish more people understood about exercise is that when we exercise, we're sending a very specific signal for our body to change. And if we want to affect our nervous system, we need to send a signal of strength and building. We don't want to send a signal of punishment and deprivation. And so when it comes to training for your mental health, my port of call is always strength. So remember that your mental health, your brain, literally the thing that holds your mental health, is a part of your nervous system. It's the central governor of your nervous system. And if we train the other parts of your nervous system to be strong, such as getting stronger in a squat, getting stronger in a deadlift, getting stronger in the gym, we teach your muscles to do that. Guess what else gets stronger? Your brain. They are very intricately connected. But the hard part about my job in fitness is trying to sell strength, because fitness, let's face it, still has an image issue. People think we need to be in the gym 7 times a week, sweating our butt off, being sore constantly to see results, but that is far, far, far from the truth. If we do a traditional strength training program, which means lifting weights and preferably lifting heavier weights over time, and we allow ourselves enough recovery from that strong stimulus of strength, the actual work we have to do every single week is very little. In fact, I've seen significant strength gain and thus significant mental change from people who do 1 strength training session a week, and it's about half an hour. That's it. But it's a bit of a mindset flip for a lot of people, particularly if you already do a lot of exercise or a lot of events that involve high volume running or high volume functional fitness. And so the way I approach it is pretty simple. We choose 3 exercises: a leg exercise, a pulling exercise, and a pushing exercise. And your mission is to simply get as strong as possible in those exercises over the next 3 weeks. You can do other exercises, absolutely, but these are your primary ones. It's why, and just thinking out loud here for a second, it's why powerlifting I think is really great. If you don't know what powerlifting is, it's 3 movements, it's a squat, it's a deadlift and a bench, and you simply have to lift as much as you can for 1 repetition. The reason why I love powerlifting programs is that they're very high ROI on your effort. And so you'll do a squat day, a bench day, a deadlift day, and then maybe a couple of accessory days a week. You'll be doing less work than if you were training for a marathon. You focus on recovery, and all of a sudden all these different parts of your life start coming together, and you're doing it whilst increasing your metabolism and making your body stronger and healthier. If you don't know much about powerlifting, do a bit of research, and if you do have a question, hey, write it in hello@bartwalsh.com.au, and I'll be sure to answer that question for you. But to summarize, how do we train to become more mentally resilient? I want you to train to get strong. I want you to train to lift heavier over time. In a year's time, I want to fast forward, and I want you to be able to lift more than you can on your current lifts in the gym. And if you're like, Bart, stop talking about lifting. I don't like lifting. It's not me. I highly recommend you reconsider that statement. And in fact, if you need help, hire a trainer, even for 1 session, 2 sessions, just to teach you how to lift, and so you can feel what it feels like to be capable and strong, because it's far too beneficial. It's far too transformative to just disregard because you don't like it. Along with that, I also want you to nourish yourself to get stronger. And this is another mindset flip that people need to understand. If you want to get stronger, if you want to increase your metabolism, you need to eat more. Not necessarily more McDonald's, but more good food, more substrates that will build up your body and not deprive it like a lot of these restrictive diets do. And then finally, I want you to recover from those workouts. This means focusing on high quality sleep, enough protein, mobilization if you can. Look into stuff like saunas and ice baths if you're into that thing to help facilitate you getting strong. But trust me, you focus on getting your body physically strong and your brain will follow suit. All right, question 3.
When going through a tough time, how do you know when to take action? Or as you say, when should I seek discomfort?
Let me explain seek discomfort for you. Seek discomfort is my second rule of resilience. The first is called own your circumstance. We need to own our problems. If we don't own the problems and challenges in our lives, we have no power over them. So we own them, and then we seek discomfort, the second rule, to find direction. I believe that we are in a comfort crisis. I honestly do. The modern day that we are living in, our biology hasn't evolved to cope with. We haven't evolved to cope with screens in front of us, to cope with podcasts in your ears every single moment of every single day. We haven't evolved to sit down so much, or we haven't evolved to eat these hyper-processed, palatable food. We haven't. And as a result, our body is just crying out. Metabolic disease is on the increase, or at least staying stable. It's not getting better. In the last 10 years, rates of anxiety and depression have increased 60% in adolescence, I believe because of our modern day of living. 2 in 3 Australians is overweight or obese, and get this, 1 in 3 Aussies has reported feeling lonely. In the most connected time in humanity, we're feeling lonely. So I believe this disconnection between how our body has evolved and the world that we are living in is making us far too comfortable, and seeking discomfort is your way out of that. Seeking discomfort is finding a stress. It's called eustress. It's the good stress, eustress, finding eustress that will make you stronger, make you more resilient. It could be as simple as calling someone instead of texting. It's uncomfortable, absolutely, but it's going to make you stronger. You're going to learn from it. It's going to become more comfortable over time. It could be learning a new skill, something that you've always wanted to do but didn't think you were capable of. It could be starting a YouTube channel that you've always wanted to do. It could be even applying for the job that you don't think you can get but you've always wanted. These things that are, and dare I say, going to the gym. The gym is the best example of expressing good stress with consistency. You go into the gym, you make yourself weaker, you grow stronger. You put yourself under good stress to get a good result. And so seeking discomfort is a commitment to doing things in your life that will make you grow. It could be as simple as well as listening to a bloody podcast that will make you think differently about things. And so going back to the question, if you're going through a tough time, when is it right to seek discomfort? You'll never know. I should say there's no one point that you start. But I think whenever you're going through a tough time, depending on what it is, there needs to be a level of grief. There needs to be a level of grieving. And I'll give you an example. When I had cancer at the age of 23, I gave myself time. I wanted to get into the gym. I wanted to change my life. I wanted to do it, but I held myself back because I know I needed to start to understand or digest what's happening to me. If something happens to us and we know it's affecting us and then we just white knuckle ourselves through the pain, we're not expressing resilience. We're just being stubborn. We're not accepting the problem that's happening. We're not owning it. And so there needs to be a level of that when you're going through this tough time. And when you need to seek discomfort, it's when you need it. It's whenever you feel ready, when you're acknowledging that this has happened and now it's time to move on. And that could be one day, it could be 2 days, it could be 3 weeks, it could be years. The last thing I want you to do though is to get stuck in that grief period, which a lot of people do. They get stuck in the past and stuck in this moment, and as a result their life stays where it is. And so I want you to start climbing out of that hole once you've acknowledged the depth of it. Don't stay at the bottom of it. And it could be a new career, it could be a new location, it could be a tough conversation with your partner, it could be a lot of things. But without it, we remain where we are. And it should be also noted that even in times of prosperity and good times, there should be a level of seeking discomfort. I mean, I know a lot of you people out there have trained you thousands of times over in the gym, and I know you always want something more, you always want something better. Most of you do anyway. And a way to get that more or to get that better is to continually stretch yourself just a little bit to make you better either financially or relationally or physically or mentally. And so seeking discomfort, yes, is a lever we can pull to get out of tough times, but it's also something that we should do consistently to keep ourselves moving forward. I hope that answers your question. And the last question.
You talked a bit about your anxiety before. Can you expand on this? What are some things you do to manage it?
So my experience with anxiety is complex. I had no idea what anxiety was until I experienced it to myself. I had no idea how irrational it is until I had an anxiety attack. And it happened after I had cancer. I was walking down the street in Port Melbourne. It was the first time I had a kombucha. I was like, what is this wonder drink? It's low in sugar, high in fermented things. It's good for my gut. What is this? And I drank it. And as soon as I drank it, my whole world narrowed and I was overcome by this sense of impending doom. But I didn't know where this doom was coming from. It was so bad that I had to actually sit down on someone's mailbox and take 5 minutes to convince myself that I wasn't going to die. I thought that I was just going to end. And then after the 5 or so minutes, I came out of it and I went, what the hell was that? And that's when I truly understood anxiety. It's a fear of uncertainty. I think it's also a reaction to a very stressed and very traumatized nervous system. I think that was in my case anyway. And then ever since that day, I've been battling it. And with the condition with my legs, my body is always trying to find stability in my feet. Our feet and how we connect to the world is our body's barometer of balance. And because my nerves are dying in my feet, my body's always sending back signals of chaos from my feet to my brain. And so my anxiety is often heightened, particularly when I do a workout that's too hard or do too many presentations within 1 week. The anxiety really takes over. And so I know it really, really well, but every time I sort of have a peak of it, it's still both rational and irrational at the same time. And I hope there's people out there that have experienced same things that can relate. It's awful. It can be all encompassing, but you can also realize just how dumb it is at the same time. It doesn't. I was convinced the other day that I was going to get fired. And I just thought that was going to happen. There was no reason for it. I don't think I've been performing poorly. I was convinced that day I was going to lose my job and my entire day was gone. But I know that's a result of my system being overstressed. But back to the question, what are things that you can do to manage it? So remember, anxiety has got to do with your nervous system. And so if we're looking at managing our anxiety, let's try and manage our nervous system. And your nervous system is taking in signals every millisecond of every day. Right now, my nervous system is taking in the signals of how light it is in this room. It's taking in the how close this microphone is to my face. It's taking into the position that I'm sitting in. It's taking in whatever electrical signals that might be around here. 5G warriors, you know what I'm talking about. It's taking in data points. And for us to tamp down the anxiety, we need to tamp down those data points. So for me in managing my anxiety, it's about detaching myself from things that cause stress, which might be work, might be workouts, which is taking me a long time to figure out. I need to dial them back if I want to manage my mental health, which is the opposite for most people, funnily enough. I need to find a place of stillness where there's no noise, there's no physical movement. I often close my eyes if it's very acute anxiety. But once I start to tamp down all the signals I'm sending my nervous system, all of a sudden my brain can relax. Physiologically, that's what I do. But then there's also a nutritional aspect. I need to make sure I'm eating high fatty acid foods, omega-3 fatty acids, low inflammatory foods, and that also helps the nervous system lower the inflammation and release the anxiety. Plus, if you want to think about mindfulness, I've just lost my camera. So if you're watching this on YouTube, sorry, you're gonna have to listen to me for the rest of this. And there is a thing to say about mindfulness as well. In fact, I'll just move to this camera. Hello. There's something to say about mindfulness too. You know, people preach meditation, people preach mindfulness activities, and they work, they do. But you need to find the one that works for you. It could be yoga, it could be yin yoga, but they do a similar thing to what I was talking about as by dampening the signals that your nervous system is taking in. And mindfulness just brings you back into the present. And if you listen to my keynotes before, you've probably heard me talk about this. The one mindfulness activity I do is called closing your loops. And it's simple. I'm recording on my phone. I can't really take it out, but I take out my phone, I grab the stylus, and I write down the thoughts that are going on through my head. And I often do it before bed, so it allows me to sleep. So for example, I'll write down, I honestly believe I'm going to get fired today. And then I'll add, but there's no reason for you to believe this. And because it's late at night, you don't need to worry about this. Put it to bed, and if it worries you in the morning, let's address it then. Or perhaps it could be something like, I forgot to send that important email to my boss today. And that's okay. It's 10:30 at night. Your boss is asleep. You can send it in the morning. Everything will be okay. Stop and send it off. Or for the mums out there who at about an hour after the kids go to bed and you're about to go to bed, you suddenly remember all the things you forgot and how you might think that you're a bad parent. Write it down and realize just how irrational that is. And that's just you telling you stories. I'll do the groceries tomorrow. I'll change the sheets tomorrow. Just because I snapped at my child today does not make me a bad mother. I was just stressed. Simply closing those thought loops onto an arbitrary piece of paper or even a phone, like I do, that helps. And that helps lower my anxiety, helps me get a better sleep, or sets me up better later in the day. But look, anxiety is a monster, and it affects a lot of people more than others. I know that. So for the person writing this question, I'll keep you anonymous, of course. Trial and error. The worst thing you can do is just let it happen and not do anything about it. But if you look after your physical body, learn to tamp down the data that your nervous system is taking in, and then practice some mindfulness activities like closing your loops, you'll find what works. And then it's just a matter of doing that with a relentless consistency over and over again. Hey team, thank you for listening to me ramble. today. I'm normally on script. Today I'm not. If you did like the show and you like this format and you want to hear some more stories from me, write in hello@bartwalsh.com.au. Let me know if you like it. Let me know what you want to see. I really want to craft this show to fit what you want, but to also provide value and information that you can actually use. So any feedback is great. 5-star rating and review. Hit the subscribe button. Boost us up the algorithm. And team, I'll see you next week. Remember to choose resilience.